What do you think makes, or what do you know to be true about what makes a TED Talk powerful? So if somebody's thinking, I'm going to go and do a TED Talk, we know that a lot of people have it on their bucket list. What do we need to be mindful of? What is actually the structure of a great TED Talk that makes it so powerful?
Well, first of all, realize that people need simplicity. And how do you keep it simple is one theme. And that was a big revelation to me. I didn't realize until I started writing about TED Talks and talking to TED organizers. I didn't realize that more often than not, a speaker will say, how am I expected to get everything I know across in just 18 minutes? Well, the answer is you don't. You're not expected. In fact, it's preferable if you don't tell us everything you know in 18 minutes. So that's number one. You have to realize that I'm going to pick one big idea, one concept, and then everything else is going to support that concept. I call it a log line. TED Talks call it a through line. I've seen other people call it a headline. I don't really care what you call it. What's interesting is we're arriving at the same conclusions from different fields. The point is, what is your talk in one sentence? You got to start there. Even when you go to TED.com, they label the talk. Well, those talks can easily fit within like 120 characters or less. There are a few words. How can you describe your talk in The Power of Vulnerability, right? Brene Brown. Oh, okay. Vulnerability, power and vulnerability. What? Right. The Power of Introverts. Remember Susan Cain's TED Talk, which I love too. But again, there's power, and they're using kind of a similar structure. Power in something that you didn't expect would have power. Oh, that's interesting. That's attention grabbing, but it's only one sentence. So I think this applies to TED Talks. I think it applies to any good pitch or presentation. And I've heard venture capitalists in Silicon Valley tell me this too. If you can't explain your idea in a sentence and then everything else supports it, they're not interested. They want to hear it and get it simply and concisely. The same with a good TED Talk. So I think there's a structure to a good TED Talk, but within that structure, you can be endlessly creative. And that's what I like to help people understand.
I'm fascinated with structures. I love to modelize everything and understand through a structure perspective, but actually not because I'm a lover of structure. I love to not be boxed in and not hemmed in. What I discovered actually in my days in industrial relations and human resources is the more structure we have in the foundation, the more creative we get. And I think you just summed that up perfectly, is the stronger the structure and the foundation, the more creative we can get. So, I would walk into organizations who tell me, I want to be in the top 50 employers of choice, and be like, your people don't even know how to find their leave form right now. Right?
And it's interesting that you came to that conclusion from industrial relations. Again, it's different fields, but you're reaching that conclusion.
It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And so when somebody is actually deciding to or choosing to do a TED Talk, if you're coming in, what's the first couple of questions you'd be asking them to make sure that they're ready to invest what needs to be done to get there? What would you actually be asking them to make sure they're clear and they're ready to go?
A couple of things. There's a lot of different ways of asking a question to elicit, the best structure or the best stories and the best talk. I like to know, what is it that you're going to teach me? What are you teaching me that I don't know? So I think that's a good question. Like, you got to teach in order to really stand out, get attention, not only on the TED platform, because now there's more and more TED Talks, but in almost any public speaking opportunity, you've got to teach people something new, something I haven't thought of before, or a completely different way of looking at an existing problem. So you have to have something behind you that's interesting or unique. And so we got to start there, okay? Not everything can be a good TED Talk. It has to actually teach you something. Social media is full of people and full of speakers who really don't teach you anything.
It's sound bites.
Derivative. Yeah, sound bites or they're derivative. They're not interesting. So teach me something new, but also do it in a way that is novel and memorable and exciting, and that breaks those patterns. That's unexpected, And so that's where you can really get creative.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to TED Talks, you've mentioned Brian Stevenson, Ken Robinson. We've spoken about Brene
Yeah.
Brown. Who
Susan
else is your
Susan Cain,
favorites?
and I love
Susan Cain.
Susan Cain. You know, she was an introvert. I've talked to her about
Yes.
this. She was an introvert. She was terrified of public speaking, and she gave one of the most popular, most viewed TED Talks of all time. Interesting, isn't it? Again, there's a formula to get there, and there's a formula for working at it.